Hi everyone. Well, I went back to the theaters the first time in over 2.5 years. Before the pandemic, I was an AMC subscriber, an A-list subscriber, so I was going to the movies about twice a week. And right down the road from me, about a 7-minute drive down Route 1, is a very large AMC with a Dolby and an IMAX, and those two formats are worth it because you don't have to pay extra from your subscription to go to those movies. And you can, if you're unaware of the A-list, you can see 3 movies a week. And where I live in New Jersey, they charge $27 with the tax, so that's quite a bargain. But really, there's 2 words that apply here that got me impelled to go back to the movies, and those 2 words are Cate Blanchett. The movie is Tar. Cate Blanchett is probably my favorite actor in contemporary cinema, and I know she's terrific in this movie. So I was really, it was the last day it was being shown, though it is being shown in other theaters still. And Tar is the last name of the character she plays in this movie, Lydia Tarr. She's a symphony orchestra conductor, a maestro. She has made it to the top. She is to the Berlin Philharmonie, and in the long opening passage, we see Lydia Tarr being interviewed in front of a live audience, appreciative, worshipful kind of audience, and being interviewed by Adam Gupnik of New Yorker magazine, and in which they discuss her career, the problems of a woman conductor. There's only one of all the symphony orchestras in the U.S. right now. There's only one who is a woman, and they talk very significantly about the male conductors, the superstar Claudio Botto and James Levine, who have been dismissed from their position for abusing the power and sexual harassment. And this opening interview, we see Lydia Tarr in control. This is a woman who has reached her place. She's in control of her life. But we soon feel premonitions that this might not be the case. She has an assistant who watches every move that Lydia Tarr makes and her conversations, casting a rather dubious eye on them. She nevertheless is very efficient, and we quickly grasp there's kind of a love-hate relationship going on there. And then we see some strange texts, and it takes a while for us to figure out exactly what these texts are implying. So all is not well. And then we see her in the following scene where she's holding a class in Juilliard, and we see her confronting a student who claims that he is not, and this is a conducting class, and we see her interact with one of the students who claims that he is not interested in Bach. Bach was a misogynist. I'm not interested in dead white composers, which thoroughly infuriates Lydia Tarr, and she treats him in a very bullying and condescending manner. But it does bring up one of the most fascinating elements of the modern times, contemporary times, in the sense of how do you separate the art from the artist? If the artist is not a good person, should we just dispense with the art? With Lydia, we see different sides. So we see her being acclaimed, but then we do see her at work. We see her, she is conducting Mahler. I'm not a big classical music fan, but Mahler was a big part of my life for many, many years. And she's conducting the Fifth, Mahler's Fifth, a very mysterious symphony, to complete her total Mahler catalog. She will now have recorded all of Mahler's symphonies, and we see her in the interactions with the orchestra. So we do get to see the genius, the maestro at work, and the process of how they practice and how they try to achieve Lydia Tarr's vision of her interpretation, her personal stamp on the music. And I think probably my favorite moment in the movies is when they reached a point where she is very satisfied, and Cate Blanchett, she closes her eyes in a kind of ecstasy, and she just quietly says, "Beautiful." So this is the one side to Lydia Tarr, her genius as a conductor. We feel it. Cate Blanchett feels very authentic in the role, but this is really a study. This movie is really a study of power and what power means, how you achieve power, and what you do with it once you get there. It's very much part of the conductor, the maestro, as a god, very similar to the role of a movie director. And I've read an interview with the director Todd Field, who acknowledges that the director is a kind of god, and certainly in earlier years in cinema in Hollywood, or really all around the world, the director was just like a tyrant. He was allowed to get away with whatever he wanted to do because he was the maestro. And we see Lydia Tarr's hero, which is Leonard Bernstein, and she, at a moment of despair, she puts on an old VHS tape of Bernstein's young people's concerts. It used to be on TV Saturday mornings. TV for kids has some cultural attachments to it, and one was Bernstein's these Bernstein concerts, which were very inspiring, and he was able to communicate the meaning of this music. So there's the connection that Tarr has with Bernstein. Bernstein also a huge Gustav Mahler fan, probably one of the chief reasons that Mahler's legacy has become so popular. And the movie, Todd Field's approach is through kind of a detachment, a sense of detachment. He's compared to Stanley Kubrick. Todd Field was an actor and appeared in Kubrick's last film, Eyes Wide Shut. And you feel that same sense of Kubrickian detachment. You also, and with Kubrick, there is the theme of the malfunctioning of the male ego. This is a common thing that runs through Kubrick. Would this also apply to a woman? And this has brought back some dissent from the overall acclaim that Tarr has received. It was at the Venice Film Festival and all around the world. It's got great reviews, but there is dissenters who claim that it's a regressive film. Why should we assume that a woman would be the same as a man when given this kind of godlike power? So we have this background, and it's very interesting that Field is detached. He's not a filmmaker. He lets you into the film. But we have this background, contemporary background of cancel culture. Now, I've always said that it takes me 20 years before I can really understand the movie, see it with great clarity. I have to have context. It's hard for me to judge it because contemporary issues are so much with us. And of course, I'm not going to be here. Well, hopefully I'll still be here in 20 years. I don't know, hopefully or not, but I probably won't be doing YouTube videos. But maybe I'll set a record for the first YouTuber in their 90s. Because then whatever these contemporary issues are, they sometimes they exhaust themselves, sometimes they become even more prominent, but we can't, it's going to be different. 20 years from now it's going to be different than it is today. So a film like this, I think, is going to have continuing interest, the same way that Kubrick's films have continuing interest. You know, they're always going to be out there, and people are always going to want to see them because they have that element of strangeness to them. They're not like everything else. That element of strangeness, you might call it mystery, but I think strangeness is really the best word, is something that you're always going to be drawn back to. And it might look differently, you know, as years go by. Now, you know, all these kind of things, these issues, and this study of power is interesting of itself. But on a certain level, we're seeing a very interesting character who is not admirable. She is a genius, but she's not an admirable human being. And you can see the film as a really absorbing portrait. It's 2 hours and 38 minutes long. But Cate Blanchett this is a majestic performance. If you're a fan of Cate Blanchett, you have to see this movie. I have to mention two co-stars, Nina Haas, who plays Lydia Tarr's partner. They're in a lesbian relationship with a child. Nina Haas, I recognized her, and then I saw, yeah, she was in Barbara, a 2012 movie, German movie directed by Christian Pizzol. She's very good in that, highly recommend. Naomi Merlan plays the assistant, and she was the painter in, let's see if I get the title right, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Todd Fields himself, this is only his third movie. His first movie, 2001, In the Bedroom, 2006, Little Children. 16-year gap between that and this film. A real shame. He is a really unique director. But he was working on several projects, prominent projects. He was working on an adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. He wrote a 2,000-page screenplay for a long series on Showtime based on Jonathan Franzen's novel Purity, which was going to star, among others, Daniel Craig, but then Showtime pulled the plug on it. But at least he's come back with a movie that I have very positive reaction to. His other two movies I admired, but I know I didn't react as positively as I am to Tar. But I have to go back and watch a couple more of those other two films that Field has directed. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened. I really appreciate it. If you've seen Tar, I would really love to hear what your thoughts are on it. Take care.